I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of this glorious internet. And we've got some serious business to attend to today, so we want to make sure all the tubes are working. Sometimes the tubes get a little extra clogged over the weekends, but it looks like they're alive and well, which is tremendous. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia, and today we are talking about Big Fani Willis, the biggest Fani in Georgia. She is racing to indict Donald Trump right now, and something very interesting happened. Big Fani let one slip. Oh man, and it stinks. We can smell it all the way here in Arizona. It isn't good. And it is an indictment for Donald Trump. And this thing fell onto the court docket today. They published it, then they retracted it, they deleted it, and then something very interesting happened. They were supposed to have a nice leisurely grand jury proceeding today where they were going to go through witnesses one at a time, very slowly but surely, and then tomorrow they were going to have another day of it. And then suddenly, once they leaked that they had already indicted them in their minds and in the court systems before the grand jury even voted, then they decided to accelerate the process very quickly, and it's been fun to watch. Outside the courthouse this morning, CNN came out and they said they have 1 to 2 couple witnesses that we'll get to today. And then as soon as news broke that this indictment had leaked, even though there wasn't an indictment yet, in other words, their plan to prosecute Trump had leaked before he had even been indicted, then they really picked up the pace. They put the gas pedal all the way down, and they were accelerating the pace today. And then we're going to go over, and they said we had 5 out of 10 today. So it goes from 1 to 2 witnesses over 2 days, or 10 witnesses over 2 days, 5 a day, 1 an hour with breaks. Okay. Now they're going to do 10 in 1 day. And so we don't even know. I mean, there could be an indictment that drops any minute now, just a vote to indict. So we'll see. And if it drops, we'll see where we're at in the show. We might get to it, or we might save it for tomorrow, but it could be dropping any day now. Now, from the leaked document, we are going to check in and see if we can parse out what exactly is happening here. Kyle Cheney, who's been following the Trump prosecutions for a long time, has some nice corroboration. And he's saying that I think I know what the various charges are, whether it's a letter or a phone call. We'll see if we can piece that together. We've got a clip from Christie, which is I was debating about whether to even put it in here or not because it's just Chris, but we'll leave it because I wanted to talk about this. Vivek slams this, and I think he's really the only Republican candidate who's actually talking about it, but he is volunteering to write an amicus brief on his own. That's how upset he is about it. So we'll go through all of that. Quick update on the big Fani, the biggest Fani in Georgia. And for a long time, I've been asking, can anybody think of somebody who's a bigger Fani than Fani Willis in Georgia? I'd love to know. But alas, no proof has been offered. So we'll just have to continue to hold out hope. Now, we also have some other segments to attend to. You can see here, Donald Trump over the weekend slammed Judge Chutkan. And he didn't do it with his words. He used her words. And he sent that out on True Social. And you see, it's just a nice little quote from Judge Tanya Chutkan. And it's her words that she used in a sentencing that we'll read through that Trump reposted. And now this is causing people to say, oh, Trump is not following the rules. And what's that going to mean? Well, Judge Chutkan's going to have to do something about it. He also is talking about some other people who are actual witnesses in grand jury proceedings, including this guy. Lieutenant Governor Geoff Duncan was testifying before the grand jury proceeding today. He thought he was testifying tomorrow until Big Fani dropped the indictment or news of the indictment. And then he was apparently testifying today. So that got accelerated quickly. There was big news over the weekend that the judge in the January 6th case has a very interesting connection to the Christopher Steele dossier, the hoax that they used to cram through the Michael Sussman scandal with Jim Baker and the FBI. So there's a story on that. We'll talk about her. And then I wanted to check in on the docket to see if the government prosecutors filed a response on the Trump Truth post, because we know they've got a bunch of prosecutors who are just sitting there on their phones refreshing Trump's Truth feed all day. Multiple of them, probably a whole team of people outside Merrick Garland's office. So we've got all that. Then this was shocking today. I can't believe it at this point, but they're saying Hunter's lawyers are claiming that he's already got full immunity. And they're doing it in a very, I think, appropriate way if you're a defense attorney and you have the entire Justice Department in your pocket. So here's the story. We're going to take a look at the court docket. We've also got the actual filings. So remember when the plea deal broke down with Hunter Biden's case? There were two separate documents, an actual plea deal and a diversion agreement. Well, the plea deal got botched and totally wrecked because the judge said this is corrupt and I've never seen anything like this before. But the government is saying, or at least what Hunter's lawyers are saying, is that the government and Hunter's defense team have entered into a private contract that the judge has no say in at all. And so they've already executed the contract, and the contract stands on its own. It's a diversion agreement that immunizes Hunter because they've entered it, and that they can't undo that. They can't unring that bell. And so, in other words, he's got full immunity right now. That's Hunter's team's defense position. Now, the DOJ just appointed a special counsel to go investigate him for those very crimes. So we have a problem here because we've got David Weiss, who just got appointed on Friday, who says, I'm going to go and actually investigate these crimes now. But Hunter's lawyers also filed a document that said he's immunized. So appoint whatever you want. I don't care. I'm already immunized from the plea deal that Merrick Garland's DOJ, that David Weiss allowed to be executed, is already in effect. So what has he been appointed for? It's absolutely insane. It kind of caught me by surprise this morning because I wasn't expecting them to exercise that a little argument so quickly right after David Weiss gets appointed as special counsel. They're saying, "No, you're done here. You're done." The White House is reacting. We've got Karine Jean-Pierre. Now, they've been on a beach vacation for a long time. I think we saw that Joe Biden was, on the beach when Hawaii was burnt to a crisp. The only thing that we didn't see him do was roasting marshmallows around a campfire, s'mores or something like that. But otherwise, he was enjoying the beach when America's most treasured beaches have been smoldering to a ground. Been on vacation for a long time, but they showed back up. Karine came out and was responding now to the special counsel news. We've got two clips from her and reaction from James Comer before we see what the judge is up to on her response. And then lastly, in our final segment, some very interesting clips now emerging. Hunter might be a little bit sour, a little bit stale. Well, one of those guests that has overstayed their welcome. Jake Tapper over the weekend said, Republicans kind of have a point on a lot of this stuff. They told us that David Weiss could do whatever we want. Guys like me, Jake Tapper, were sitting here on CNN saying he could do whatever he wants. And now they gave him the powers that allow him to do whatever he wants. So was I wrong or were they lying to us? Probably both. We also have a news story from the Washington Post. This is interesting. Are they turning on Hunter? They say no special treatment for Hunter. And we've also got Raskin now, who is acknowledging he's making statements and claims. He's saying, yeah, okay, Hunter did do some really unlawful things. Well, that's weird. All right, 3 for 3. Tapper, Raskin, and the WAPO, are they creating a little bit of a moat around Biden to protect him from Hunter, or simultaneously around Hunter to protect him from anything else? No, I don't know. But as you can see, my friends, we have a lot to get to today. And if you want to be a part of the show, my friends, we have an amazing community. We love our members. We had a beautiful members-only stream this morning. We had a great members-only stream on Saturday, which was a lot of fun, where we talked about the Joe Biden impeachment. And of course, we'll stick around after the show for our members-only after party over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love it if you joined us. If you join up on YouTube, that would be amazing as well. I see Zulu already brought in 10 new members. We'll welcome them officially at the end of the show, but thank you, Zulu, for that. YouTube members, grab the private Telegram group so you can join us for the after party. If you don't want to join as a member, you can always check out our website, robertgovea.com, with this fancy dark mode. Here, let's turn into light mode. There it is. All right. So you can sign up for our daily newsletter so you don't miss anything. You just get the summation of the show delivered to your inbox every day after the show, the following morning. You can also go to robertgovea.com, click the reports section and you can see reports on the various segments that we cover here. So last week we talked about a lot of stuff, and it's all located right here at robertgovea.com. And now, of course, before we get into the program, we got to make sure that we're healthy and well, including with our vegetables, which is why we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, wouldn't we? But how sick are you, man, of all the and women, all the ads for weight loss pills and fad diets, you know? We've all been there. We've all done that. They just don't work. But you know what does? Eating healthy, especially 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. It's like 5? Yeah, easy. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off because you're eating healthy. But look, vegetables, not a fan, and fruit. Who's got time to prepare that every day? I don't. Instead, we can talk about Field of Greens, which is a science-backed formula of very specific fruits and vegetables. If you just look at the label, you'll see that you're not going to find in any other product. We know that proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, "Oh my goodness gracious, you look beautiful." Whatever you're doing, keep it up. So let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. When you're there, enter code Robert at checkout so you can save 15% off at fieldofgreens.com because the vegetables want to be eaten. They're very delicious. They come bursting out of the ground. They're colorful. They're even weird looking, you know, which kind of makes you want to taste it for some reason. I don't know. So get your vegetables, fieldofgreens.com, code Robert. All right, let's get to it. Big Fani Willis, the biggest Fani in Georgia, let one slip, and we can all smell it from miles away, including here in Arizona. She has for a long time been hinting that she wants to also indict Donald Trump. A lot of people want to indict him. It's the new cool thing. All the prosecutors here who are partisan hack Democrats, they want one. And so we're now on number 4, indictment number 4. Big Fani has delivered it. Now, something interesting happened here because this was supposed to be kind of a slow, drawn-out process. We know how these people really like to milk the limelight, and this is her 15 minutes, and so she's going to extend it to 20 if she can. And so there was going to be a couple days of grand jury testimony, slow witnesses, and then finally, lo and behold, this big climactic event where somebody gets indicted named Donald Trump. But that went askew, and they've had to go very quickly. We're going to hear an update that they were up to 5 out of 10 witnesses on the day, which means they're accelerating this very quickly. Why? Because the indictment or the charges that would come from the indictment have leaked, already been published, which is strange because how can you know the future? I don't think this is pre-crime. I'm not sure we're living in Minority Report yet. But Fani and the courts already have a list of charges against Donald Trump when the grand jury hasn't even been done hearing evidence yet. So they posted it and then they removed it. And then, the grand jury went a lot more quickly the following day. So here is the backstory. The person where I saw this first from was from Sarah Lynch, and she got the document. She says the Fulton County, Georgia court website briefly posted a document that appeared to detail several criminal charges against Donald Trump on Monday before taking the document down without explanation. Document was dated October 14th, which is today, and named Trump, citing the case as open. Sarah says the since removed document cited charges like violation of RICO, conspiracy, and so on. We'll go through them. She pulled the full story over from Reuters, and here's what it says. We'll take a look at the document in detail. But the DA's office in response said in a statement that no charges had been filed against Trump. They said, oh no, nothing's been filed yet. Well, that's weird. Well, why do we have a list of charges that are on the court docket? And you here, my friends, are with us regularly when we pull up the court docket and we see the list of charges. Oh, there it is. What's happening next? What's the next court date? Who's the notice of appearance? Who's the attorney on the case? Who filed the notice of appearance? And so on. The document was dated August 14th, and Trump has had a lot to say about this. But let's take a look at the actual document. This is what was filed, and this looks like it was printed 8/14/12/39 details Looks like it is a printout directly from a court website. In fact, it is. Here is the web address on the bottom. Public Record Access, Fulton County, Georgia, portal, workspace mode, accordingly. So it looks just like Arizona Public Access or any other state court public access, where you just go and you type in somebody's name. Probably went over there, typed in Trump, and said, oh, you're kidding me. A search result returned case information for this case, 23 SC 1888945. Now, what's curious about this is in some situations, you'll see entries on the court docket, but it will be a pre-file case. It'll be a grand jury entry number. They'll have some internal case number, but that stuff's not going to show up on a public court docket. Like, that's insane, right? That would never happen because all that stuff is, well, grand jury proceedings are private. So to have this just pop up means that something is in the court system. It is a case status of open. It is not like a pre-file or an investigation status from some internal system. This is on the public court record. Here it is. publicrecordaccess.fultoncounty.ga.gov. It's right there. So who entered the charges into the docket? Somebody's getting very antsy over there. It's also got a case number. It was filed on 8/14, which means this is a new filing, right? This is also not a grand jury filing, like a grand jury was impaneled weeks ago. It was impaneled weeks ago. They were back here today. And unless this is the first grand jury, they're going to make the argument this is a grand jury notice, but I don't buy that for a minute. They've already got, it's going to the general complex. Like it's an assigned case. Defendant Donald Trump, the date of birth redacted, and here are the charges. Violation of RICO. And we're going to go through these in a little bit more detail because Kyle Cheney from Politico cross-referenced these. Violation of RICO. So this is the big overarching umbrella crime. All these defendants, all of these people are in on it. And a big question is, are there going to be other co-defendants? Okay. And who, right? Who else is coming next? We got solicitation, violation of oath. So that's asking for something. Okay. So it's like solicitation of prostitution, the underlying crime. This is where Jack Smith is having problems understanding this. They're just saying Trump said some things and therefore there's a conspiracy. Well, what's the underlying offense? So violation of oath of public officer, which is going to be this very generic, very broad statute. Okay, very broad. You do anything that is a violation of your oath, well, what do you say, Fani, is a violation of an oath? I'm sure that your interpretation of Trump's conduct is a violation of your interpretation of oath, different than what I would say. Conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. So I think we know those are probably going to be alternate electors. Conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. We'll see what that one is. False statements, false documents, forgery. So I would imagine a lot of these are going to be from signing paperwork, right? You sign a paper, alternate electors. They say, no, we think that the legislature has deemed us to be the lawful electors of this state because what the executive branch did corrupted the election. And they're not allowed to do that because the United States Constitution gives the power of the elections to the legislatures. So if the legislatures say we have an alternate thesis, every document, again, these people are sick, just like what they've done in New York with Alvin Bragg. Every transaction, every document, every signature, every tweet is going to be a crime. Conspiracy to commit false statements in writings, filing of false documents, solicitation, again, asking, false statements in writing, solicitation, again, and false statements and writing. So it's going to be a bunch of document crimes, right? Oh, they signed a letter. Oh, they posted a tweet. Oh, they did something like this. Therefore, felony, 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 felony. And it looks like, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Some duplicative, but 13 total charges, it looks like. And we'll see what some of the documents are. Now, one person who did a good job of this is Kyle Cheney. over at Politico. And so while we're here, let's just jump on that and see what he said for us. He says, if this list holds, and you can follow him at Kyle D. Cheney on Twitter, he says, it looks like Trump is going to be tagged with the following. 12.6 is going to be the conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. He says that's the false elector effort, so probably some conversations about that. Then he's thinking that they might even be filing or citing the Supreme Court petition for certiorari as a crime, right? So if Trump filed his Supreme Court petition, he says, hey, Supreme Court, I need you to come in here and clarify this for us. He filed that on December 7th. Boom, crime, which literally what they might be charging, which would just be nuts, okay? Charging him with the solicitation of violation of oath, so that if he appeals to the Supreme Court to say, hey, I need your help, he's soliciting them to help him commit a crime. Felony, 1647B, committed 12/7/2020 by Donald Trump, right? So that could be interesting. So if you even ask for the Supreme Court for guidance, maybe they charge you with a crime. We'll see. A false court document. He references this one. He says, Trump signed a court document that knowingly included false voter fraud stats. Oh, really? According to whom? David Carter wrote an 18-page opinion that said Trump's lawyer needed to turn over certain documents and that Trump knew the documents were fraudulent, therefore crime. Again, talking about fraud. They're going to cite, he says, the 1-2 call. So on 1-2, you see here false statements and writings. Don't know what that one would have been for, or this one. Here it is. This one's a solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, 1647B, another one of those charges, probably the Brad Raffensperger phone call on January 2nd. And then another one, 917, false statements and writings. So this might be a crime, okay? Here's what they're referencing. September 17, 2021, you see the same charge right here. September 17, 2021, false statements and writings. So the fact that Donald Trump posted this, or Liz Harrington in this case posted this, new. Trump sends a letter to Brad Raffensperger. He says on September 17th, the same date, Dear Secretary Brad, large-scale voter fraud continues to be reported in Georgia. Enclosed is a report, 43,000 absentee ballots counted in DeKalb that violated these rules, making them invalid. Chain of custody rules, violated, invalid. I would respectfully request that your department check this, and if true, along with many other claims, start the process of decertifying the election. The truth must be allowed to come out. You and Government Kemp are doing a tremendous disservice to the great state of Georgia, which is systematically being destroyed by an illegitimate president and his administration. The truth must be allowed to come out. Thank you for your attention to this matter. September 17th, 2021. All right, so that's well after January 6th. And Donald Trump signs this document. So what do they say? Boom! Felony charge. How dare you put pressure on Brad Raffensperger and ask him to investigate this? It's just a felony to even think about contesting or investigating your election. So a very interesting state of affairs out there in Georgia. Bright and early, they didn't have a big agenda. They were just going to be hearing from a couple different witnesses throughout the day. Here's what CNN said. It sounded like as they were outside the courthouse.
Obviously, what's going on in the courtroom today, in the courthouse today, is a grand jury presentation, and that's being done under seal. But the grand jury will be beginning to hear this case against Donald Trump and his allies today. As you pointed out, we confirm that there is one witness who is there to testify today. Our colleagues at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution have spotted 2 other potential witnesses testifying today. And even though Donald Trump has insisted he did nothing wrong around his efforts to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia, he has been lashing out on his social media platform, including against one of the witnesses who's expected to testify before this grand jury tomorrow, former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Geoff Duncan. Donald Trump took to his social media account to say he's reading reports that the failed Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Geoff Duncan, will be testifying before the Fulton County grand jury. Trump goes on to say he shouldn't, and then he goes on to launch a number of other attacks against Duncan. All
right, so light day. Duncan might be testifying today, tomorrow. He thinks he's coming tomorrow. They've got one, maybe two witnesses that are floating around. Kind of feels like a slow day. Might not even get an indictment today. Maybe later this week. But then something happened. Well, the leak happened. Big Fani let one slip out, and now all of a sudden things changed pretty dramatically. Sarah Lynch, the same person who caught on to the document that was published, said the following. Hugo Lowell, who reports over for The Guardian, says new. This is a couple hours ago. Fulton County DA grand jury presentation appears to be moving faster than anticipated. Oh, a little bit of pep in their step now, all of a sudden. Oh, crap, we better get going on this thing. Pick it up. Pick it up. All right, well, next question. Former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Duncan and reporter George Cheney are both being asked to testify today, now, instead of Tuesday. They're like, we better get this going quick because they know we've already indicted him in our minds. So we better actually make the charges match what we've actually already done. It's like they're backfilling it. So come in. Can you testify here today? He's like in his underwear on the couch with a bag of Cheetos, you know. He's like, I can't wait to go indict Trump tomorrow. No, we need you here like now. And can you be here in 10 minutes? No. So that is what's happening. Now, what was interesting about this is Sarah Lynch, the same person who broke it, says, I wonder why that is, LOL. I wonder why that is. Yeah, because they done goofed, because they've already indicted the guy, even though there's no charges yet. There's no vote. And so that was this morning, and then a little bit of a change, and then MSNBC has this update for us. And listen how quickly it's going. We're now at 5 out of 10, baby.
We got a little bit more when it comes to timing on this. This is according to a source of mine with knowledge of the proceedings. I'm told that as of 20 minutes ago, they're currently on witness number 5 of 10. So that certainly gives us a lot more insight into how this is moving, how quickly this is moving. Again, as of about 20 minutes ago or so, they were currently on witness number 5 of 10 witnesses that they plan to call. So that tells us they're about halfway through these proceedings. But again, clearly moving more quickly than they expected it to move. But yes, could see something come down today, and that certainly moves up the time frame a little bit as well.
Blaine, it's 3 p.m. there. When did this grand jury start meeting today?
They typically start at 8:30. We don't know exactly what time they started, but typically it's 8:30 this morning. So the question then, though, Katie, becomes who are these witnesses? We know that she kind of, at least as far as the summons and subpoenas went out, she kind of front-loaded it with some of the more important witnesses, right? So we're talking about the 2 state lawmakers. We're talking about if Gabriel Sterling was, in fact, a witness. We saw him down here. Those are people that probably had heftier testimonies, possibly had more to say, versus, George Chutkan, Jeff Duncan, people that, we've referred to today as kind of the cleanup hitters in this. So the question then is, who are the remaining people that she's calling to testify? How long will that testimony be? And I think those kind of unanswered questions could help us have some more insight into how much longer this could possibly take.
Do they go past 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock? Can they extend the hours?
Are we going to hit it today?
So the courthouse closes at 5 o'clock. But what's interesting about Georgia law, you talked about this, an indictment has to be unsealed immediately, right? So that means that a judge has to still be present on the bench. The indictment has to be brought into a courtroom while there is an open proceeding, while there is a proceeding going on, rather, a judge on the bench. Court cannot close. So if we get to 6 o'clock, if we get to 7 o'clock and the courthouse doors are still open, again, that's us reading the tea leaves, but that's a pretty good indication that they may be trying to keep the court open for some special reason. And of course, we would then, assume that it has to do with this.
This is when it's.
All right. So they picked up the pace to really get things moving and increase the timing on this. And so we've got some reaction from this, including now Donald Trump has responded and issued a campaign statement. So we are going to grab that. But before we get there, let's check out some other presidential contenders, including Christie and Vivek. And we can see a little bit of a difference in reaction from these two candidates. Here's Christie. I apologize in advance.
He is a criminal defendant. John, let me remind the viewers out there, if he's indicted in Atlanta this week, as we're anticipating that he will be, we will have the front runner for the Republican nomination for president out on bail in 4 different jurisdictions: New York, Miami,
You excited
Washington,
about
and
that?
Atlanta. 4 different jurisdictions. He's out on bail. And when you're out, you get subject to certain restrictions. And the reason you're subject to those restrictions is because a grand jury has found there's probable cause that you've committed criminal acts. And there's not a presumption.
Really, out of New York City and out of DC?
A presumption that you should stay out of jail at that point. And they put certain restrictions on you to stay out of jail. So I think all of these things are things people are going to have to process for the very first time in a presidential race. And what I think Republican voters have to ask themselves is 2 things. First, is he really the guy under indictment in 4 different cases, given the conduct that he committed, someone who can beat Joe Biden or any other Democrat
Yes.
in November 2024?
No, you can't,
And
Chris.
when are we going to stop pretending
You
that
can't.
this is normal?
It's not normal. It's not normal. That's the whole point. This is the Biden DOJ doing it. You should be getting behind Donald Trump and saying this is egregious and outrageous, not saying that their weaponized use of the government against Trump is justified. It's almost as though he agrees with them. He's, wow, the DOJ is completely legitimate and they're taking out my political opponent. And it's not normal that he's been indicted 4 times because this is a legitimate entity. Obviously, we know that is not true. So here's how an intelligent candidate will respond to this. Here's one example from Vivek. He says in response, "Here we go again. Another disastrous Trump indictment. It's downright pathetic that Fulton County publicly posted the indictment on its website even before the grand jury had finished convening. Since the 4 prosecutions against Trump are using novel and untested legal theories, brand new, it's fair game for him to do the same in defense. Use untested and novel legal defense theories is where I would take that. But he says, immediately file a motion to dismiss for a constitutional due process violation for publicly issuing an indictment before the grand jury had actually signed one. He should make a strong argument on these grounds, and it would send a powerful message to the ever-expansive prosecutorial police state." Vivek says, "As someone who's running for president against Trump, I'd volunteer to write the amicus brief to the court myself. Prosecutors should not be deciding U.S. presidential elections, and if they're so overzealous that they commit constitutional violations, then the cases should be thrown out, and they should be held accountable." Well, at this point, the DOJ is running a criminal prosecution and legal campaign simultaneously, mashed into one. And so it's a nice statement. Now, Vivek got that out very quickly and issued a nice response in defense of Trump and highlighting the corruption. But Trump's team has also issued a response, and here's what they say. Posted from Trump. Team Trump, make America great again on August 14, 2023, they say. This is a statement from Trump's attorneys, Drew Findling and Jennifer Little. It says the Fulton County District Attorney's Office has once again shown that they have no respect for the integrity of the grand jury process. This was not a simple administrative mistake. A proposed indictment should only be in the hands of the DA's office, yet it somehow made its way to the clerk's office and was assigned a case number and a judge before the grand jury even deliberated. This is emblematic of the pervasive and glaring constitutional violations which have plagued this case from its very inception. Signed by Drew Findling and Jennifer Little. And so, reactions from Donald Trump, I fully expect them to challenge this. There are mechanisms by which you can challenge a grand jury proceeding. You can say just like anything, right? It was corrupted. There was improper bias, or they pressured or selectively presented materials. There's all sorts of arguments you can make at an upper level to send it back down to the grand jury. And so they are already framing this out, and I'm sure that we'll see more of this. But the big one slips out, and there will be an indictment very soon, no doubt about it. We've been waiting for her. She's been waiting for this one. She'll be the 4th one, so a little bit slower than the others, but definitely the biggest Fani in Georgia, and so this will be the biggest case in Georgia. And we'll see what the indictment says when it actually drops And I hope you join us as we do. All right, my friends. Now, we've got some other reaction here. Sticking with these prosecutions. Donald Trump slams Judge Chutkan, but he uses her own words. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is Donald Trump taking himself outside of her orders, which limit what he can say. And we're all asking ourselves, well, what are you talking about? They're her words. He just posted exactly what she said. And he did post this on True Social. And here is the quote. And we'll read the before and after language for full context. But he said this. And you'll notice here, it's attributed appropriately to Judge Tanya Chutkan. Dropped this one August 13th, 9:56 p.m. He says the following. Quote, I see the videotapes. I see the footage of the flags and the signs that people were carrying and the hats that they were wearing. This is Judge Chutkan speaking. And the garb and the people who mobbed that Capitol were there in fealty, in loyalty to one man, not to the Constitution, of which most of the people who come before me seem woefully ignorant, not to the ideals of this country, and not to the principles of democracy. It's a blind loyalty to one person who, by the way, remains free to this day. Signed by Judge Tanya Chutkan. Actually, this came from an oral sentencing where she was communicating this to a defendant. And it's very curious here because guess who still remains free after having come through her courtroom? Judge Tanya Chutkan freed Donald Trump. So this is the double standard on display even within the prosecutions. Okay, there are double standards outside of the prosecutions. Trump gets prosecuted, Hunter doesn't. J6ers get prosecutors, BLMers don't. But even within the prosecutions, there are double standards. So this judge will sit here and lecture this defendant who's probably sat in custody for a long time and says, yeah, but you have blind loyalty to Trump. One person, by the way, who remains free. Well, when Trump was in your courtroom, Judge, you didn't do anything about it. You had the ability, if he was the lead insurrectionist who was responsible for all of this monstrosities, mob the Capitol in loyalty to one man, Trump. Well, why didn't you hold him in custody then? If he was really the big insurrectionist that almost took over the whole country, you've got a bunch of other people who've come through your courtroom and you did not let them out. You blamed them and Trump for keeping them in custody. And now Trump waltzes through and you're just like, oh, have a good day. See ya. So what's the deal? Were you concerned then, but you're not concerned now for the more serious crime? Or you're not really concerned about both and you're just being performative? And you can't be as performative with Donald Trump as you can be with innocent J6ers who don't have half the country at their back, if not, dramatically more than that. So Trump gets a ton of benefits. He's out free. But a lot of J6ers are not. And this judge, for some reason, has an inconsistency in her rulings. Why is that, Judge? Curious. Now, she did give a big lecture to a J6er when he came through her court. Here's what the language said. At the top, she says, every single time that I see a videotape, this is Judge Chutkan, at a sentencing for another J6er, every time I see a videotape of what happened, I'm struck anew with both the horror of what was going on that day and how close we came to not fulfilling one of the basic functions of our democracy. Getting a headache. Which is a peaceful transfer of power, which we lecture other governments all over the world on. Yeah, and they're going to be lecturing us for prosecuting our political enemies. I mean, that's amazing. How can you have a peaceful transfer of power when one of the top political opponent to the institution in charge is to jail him and to prosecute him? So they're lecturing all of us about the peaceful transfer of power as they now strip away the right to vote from the American citizens themselves by prosecuting the leading candidate. So she's still lecturing the J6ers and says, and we're supposed to be an example of, and we were not that day. And so while Mr. Langmack is correct in that your background didn't involve any criminal activity, it's never been in trouble before ever, the events of that day and the seriousness of those events cannot be understated. Okay. This was nothing less than an attempt to violently overthrow the government. The legally, lawfully, peacefully elected government by individuals who were mad that their guy lost. That's Trump. This is the same judge who's presiding over his case. She says, I see the videotapes. This is the quote we read. I see the footage of the flags and the signs the people were carrying and the hats they were wearing and the garb. And she's doing this, right? This is a big performance. It's like theater drama class in court. I see the videotapes. I see the footage of the flags and the signs the people were carrying. The people who mobbed the Capitol. Loyalty to one man, Trump. Not to the Constitution, of which most people come before me are idiots, bunch of Trumpers, woefully ignorant. Not as smart as me. I know the Constitution. Right. Not to the ideals of this country, not to the principles of democracy. It's a blind loyalty to a person who, by the way, remains free to this day. And she didn't do anything about it after all of this lecturing and hysteria. Couldn't even do anything about the guy who led the whole thing, huh? There is no mob without the members of the mob, as I've said before. So Mr. Langmack made a point in his sentencing memo that if we were to take your participation out of that group and everything would have still happened, your actions did not materially contribute, but they did because you were there. And people act in ways that they would never act alone when they're with a group, when emotions are involved. But in terms of the seriousness of the offense, it cannot be understated, Mr. J6 defendant, how serious this was and how horrifying it was to the country. And the fact that the divisions that were already existing in this country were worsening and we're more divided than ever now. And it was exacerbated by that day. And you're one of the few defendants, Miss Priola. And maybe it's because I've talked about it every single sentencing that I've done to at least acknowledge the harm that was done to people there. And so, right, she got a sentence. I'm sure it wasn't pretty because this judge has already come to her conclusion. Blind loyalty to Trump. And he was going to wreck the principles of democracy on a violent overthrow of the government, okay? A violent overthrow of the government. These people are just, they had control of the entire thing in hours. They voted back that day. That podium guy didn't even make it with the podium. Shout out to podium guy. So, okay, this is what she has said. And now she's going to be a fair and impartial judge on this entire thing. So Trump is exercising some serious free speech, and we're going to see what the government says. But this one is just him repeating her words. It's not even a big thing, but they're already calling it an attack. Why would they call it an attack? Let's say this. If Trump posted another statement from Judge Tanya Chutkan, if Trump posted, says, remain in agreement with your release conditions. Stay bound to your release conditions. If Trump put that in quotes and truthed it, nobody would say anything about it. Those would be her words, and it would just be the standard words. But when he quotes that statement, they now call it an attack. Why? It's because it exposes her massive, deep cavern of bias and partisanship. So using her own words is now an attack because it exposes the weakness in their case. Now, Trump is also exercising even more free speech. Here is another quote that he posted on True Social. He said, I'm reading reports that failed former governor, Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Geoff Duncan, name spelt wrong, which is just great. It's Geoff. I think he probably knows that. Says he will be testifying before the Fulton County grand jury. He shouldn't. I barely know him, but he was right from the beginning of this witch hunt. A nasty disaster for those looking into the election fraud that took place in Georgia. Trump says he refused to have a special session to find out what went on, became very unpopular with Republicans. I refused to endorse him, and fought the truth all the way. A loser. He went to FNCNN. FNCCNN. And so that's another thing that Trump posted, and a lot of the people in the media are hyperventilating about this. This is witness tampering. This is Trump who's going to interfere with this process. And so Geoff Duncan, Geoff, got asked about this when he was on there with CNN.
Geoff Duncan. We're also joined by former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Geoff, I want to start with you and get your reaction to that social media post by Donald Trump. He's insulting you and calling you out. Do you believe he's trying to intimidate you as a witness?
Uh-oh.
Well, this close into my testimony, which is going to be tomorrow, I'm going to refrain from any comment, with the exception of
Might have
saying,
accelerated that.
which was just pointed out, he did misspell my name.
And how about what you are anticipating you'll be asked about tomorrow? If you won't comment on what Trump said, can you at least give us an idea of what you're anticipating?
Well, I'm just going to answer the questions as presented to me, much like I did in the special grand jury. Whatever the questions are, to the best of my ability, I'm going to answer the questions. And, this is an important part of the healing process for the Republican Party. This is painful. This may feel ugly to some, but this is part of this process, right? We've got to put these facts and figures and details and reality on display for America, specifically for Republicans to see what reality really is. And, the social media game that Donald Trump has played over the years, it's shallow, right? You don't have to be any more than a few hundred characters worth of information with no facts behind it, with no details to stir the crowd. And that's certainly been his game for a number of years, and it looks like it's continuing.
Notable that you are not the only person he has gone after on social media. He's also targeted a number of other officials involved in these investigations.
We're all going to heal now because the good Republicans are going to root out the bad Republicans. Now, we all know that these prosecutions and these efforts are nothing more than political shams, and we can go back and connect the dots. In fact, they've done that over at Zero Hedge, article courtesy of Mark Pellin at Headline USA. Said very interestingly that the judge in the January 6th trial, this one, Judge Chutkan, the one that we just heard lecture at the J6ers, worked at a law firm that repped Russia and the hoax brought by Fusion GPS, that whole scandal. Christopher Steele, the Russia PP tape, the Sussman saga, where Michael Sussman, who used to work for a law firm that was hired by the Hillary Clinton campaign, took this fake story, tried to shove it down the FBI's throat via Jim Baker. Jim Baker resided at the FBI until he went over to Twitter. Jake Sullivan sold the story on Twitter as that the FBI is investigating Russian collusion. And then they took that over to the media and said, oh, the FBI is investigating, so you better investigate. And then when the media looked into it, they went back to the FBI and said, oh, look, the media is investigating. And the judge used to work at the law firm where a lot of this was going on. Previously worked at a law firm that represented Fusion GPS, the company that was outsourced to help do this whole thing. She did a stint at Boyes, Schiller, Flexner, Democrat-friendly law firm that also represented Huma Abedin, wife of Democrat Anthony Weiner. So all very much connected. The stunning revelations came in the wake of reports that Obama-appointed judge worked at the same Flexner law firm, the same law firm that also reportedly represented Burisma. Trump blasted the conflicts. He said the following: there is no way I can get a fair trial with the judge. Everybody knows this, and so does she. We will be immediately asking for a recusal of this judge, and likewise for a venue change. Chutkan was forced to recuse herself from the bench when she was overseeing Fusion GPS's attempt to block Devin Nunes and Kash Patel from outing the source of payments that funded the Steele dossier. Patel brought this up. Kash is asking, she recused on her own from that case. I wonder why. He says, we found out that her law firm, Boyes Schiller, represented Fusion GPS, the very client that was in front of her and was one of her former clients. He's saying she cannot neutrally preside over this case and that she's got to recuse. So it's going to continue to get spicy, my friends. We've got now Donald Trump using her own words against her. I wanted to take a look at the docket to see if there was a government response, and there is nothing yet. So we'll see if they drop something here. We know that they've got teams of prosecutors who are just scouring Trump's Truth Social posts so they can file a memo saying objection. And if that drops, we'll of course continue to cover it because we love that free speech, and so does Donald Trump, exercising maximum free speech in all of his prosecutions. All right, my friends, and now we've got this one. Now, this one is going to make your blood boil. So Just get yourselves prepared for this. I've been raging all day. Hunter's lawyers claim he's already got full immunity. They say that the deal was entered, grants him that immunity because it was a private agreement between the government and Hunter. We know the plea deal came to a catastrophic collapse, and the plea deal was ultimately rejected. But the plea deal requires the judge to approve it and accept it and hold everybody to the terms. The diversion agreement, which was the separate document that was very convoluted in this very strange deal for which the judge said there was absolutely no precedent, was not something that implicates the judge. And so Hunter's lawyers are now saying that deal is as good as executed. Hunter's already been abiding by the terms and he's got full immunity. So what is David Weiss, the special counsel, doing? If he's investigating Hunter for those same crimes for which Hunter is immune, we're in this circle of no ability to prosecute because Hunter is immune. So what is going on here? Now, there's been a lot of activity. From the court docket, we see several different filings. Cases, United States versus Biden out of Delaware. Several things happened. The government, the United States, which is Hunter's daddy's Department of Justice, they filed a motion to vacate the court's briefing order. The briefing order is the judge ordering the parties to give me an update. I want this issue briefed and I want this issue briefed. We know the plea deal broke apart. The judge had a bunch of questions. Why? Let me know, write a memo, and get it to me when it's due. The government filed a motion to vacate that. They said, hey, we don't need that briefing order anymore. And they also filed a motion to dismiss the tax charge, because they're going to file it in another location. Then the judge said, wait a minute, you're going to be filing, vacating, and dismissing all of this stuff? Okay, so how about this? Judge Norica said, all right, defense, Hunter Biden and your team, you need to respond to this by noon on Monday. And guess what? They did. In this motion to vacate, they are basically telling the judge to get out. I want to use a swear word, to F off. Hunter's lawyers are saying, get the heck out of here, judge. It's condescending. And the judge has responded and said, okay, then, if you're telling me that I have no involvement in this and that immunity's already been granted, then I need the government to respond. It is hereby ordered from the judge that no later than noon on Tuesday, August 15th, the government shall file a reply to Hunter's claims of immunity, signed by the judge. And so the government is going to have to explain themselves as well. But let's go through the different filings, because these are juicy. The first one came out, short filing out of the United States District Court for the District of Delaware, 3 pages. This comes from the government, Hunter's daddy's Department of Justice. Cases USA versus Hunter. This is the United States motion to vacate the briefing order. They say, all right, judge, hey, the United States is submitting this. We want to vacate our briefing order because it's moot. When we were at the hearing back in July, the court judge, I know you ordered us to do the following. Here's what you said. The judge said this. Said, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. All right, these agreements are not straightforward, and they contain some atypical provisions. Judge says, I'm not criticizing you for coming up with those. I think you've worked hard to come up with a creative way to deal with those. But I'm not in a position where I can decide to accept or reject it, so I need to defer it. First, I don't know which rule this falls under, and I'm not convinced that it is actually a plea under subsection B, which you all suggest is me rubber stamping the plea if it's a knowing plea. But even if it were, judge says, I have testimony under oath, both that Hunter is concerned about the immunity, and he doesn't need that in terms of the plea agreement. So she says, I need to think about that. Additionally, I need some understanding, government and defense, as to why this is a plea under B, subsection B, and that my concern about the form over substance of the agreement not to prosecute is not valid, or why I should do this. She says, so I would like some briefing, additional briefing on why subsection B is appropriate, and if I were to determine that this is actually a plea under subsection A, it would be helpful to me to have your views on that. What it would take to make this plea acceptable, because I'm not saying that it's not, but nobody seems to have really given me what I would need to determine if I read this thing as a whole. So I need that. And then I would like, as you offered, Mr. Clark, Hunter's lawyers, You guys go back and work on whether or not you can take out paragraph 14 of the draft diversion agreement and come up with something else that's acceptable. And while you do that, you might, though I'm not trying to tell you how to negotiate your diversion agreement, you might fix that one paragraph that you have orally modified today, paragraph 15, which is the immunity section in diversion. The judge is ordering all this. I would like to understand why that provision, section 15, if you want me to go forward, is appropriate, and why I'm not doing something that gets me outside of my lane in terms of branches of government if I were to do what's being requested. So they're saying, okay, Judge, you said all that, right? Well, the court's briefing, you wanted all of this. It's premised on the ideas that the parties want to intend and continue a guilty plea. Like, you want us to brief that, like, in case we take a guilty plea. Like you say, you know, is it sub A, sub B, whatever. But they say, but that's not the case anymore. There aren't going to be any negotiations. The parties are at an impasse, and we are not in agreement on either a plea agreement, listen, or a diversion agreement. We are not in agreement, this is from the government, on a plea agreement or a diversion agreement. Therefore, the government believes that the court's order should be vacated. We're not taking a plea, doesn't matter if it's A or B, whatever. So the United States government requested Hunter's position on August 9th and asked for it by the 11th. They said, can we have more time? We said no. So at the time of this filing, they have not provided their position. As a result, the government, by Leo Weiss, this is the same guy who tried to cram this through all of our mouths, in court saying, no, I have no precedent. No, I've never done this before. Yes, I want to do it. Yes, I know what it means. It grants him total immunity from everything. I don't care. As a result, the government respectfully requests that the court vacate its briefing order since there is no longer a plea deal or a diversion agreement for the court to consider. But notice on this, he's saying we are not in agreement on a diversion. Now, we'll see what Hunter responded, because the judge ordered a response. The judge said, you better get back to us on this one. And they did. They filed their response. And here's what it says. Hunter Biden's defense team, 3 pages. This is Hunter's response to the government's request to vacate the briefing order. They say, hey, Judge, this is Hunter's lawyer speaking. They say, while the attorneys for Hunter are still prepared to respond to the questions that you posed, that you ordered us to brief, they say, in light of the U.S. decision on Friday to renege on the previously agreed upon plea agreement, we agree that those issues are moot at this point. Nevertheless, we wish to inform the court of the following. So we're happy to answer your questions, Judge, but they are moot. But first, in May 2023, Hunty, through his lawyer, accepted the prosecutor's invitation to engage in settlement and plea discussions that Hunter and his team of lawyers understood would fully resolve the sprawling 5-year investigation. So he's saying we came in good faith. Second, as is customary in negotiated resolutions, Hunter's lawyer is saying, prosecutors, and not Hunter or his lawyers, they proposed and largely dictated the form and content of the plea and diversion agreements. I just want to pause on that. The government prosecutors proposed, this is according to Hunter's defense. He says, we're just sitting here. They made the offer. They came to us. Hunter Biden is being prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Who runs that? Merrick Garland. Who is in charge of Merrick Garland? Joe Biden. So the DOJ says, we have this, we'd like to immunize you. We'd like to make you plead guilty to some misdemeanor tax stuff. And then you can have a diversion on the guns. And then everything's going to go away. You'll have no felonies on your record. Everything's going to be fine. They offered it to him. They're like, sure, we'll take it. That's a great deal. We'd also like some fries with that too. Can you please bring those too? And they're like, yeah, sure. How many orders? So Hunter's team says this is true with respect to the form in which the documents were presented, how we structured this with the diversion and the other docs, as 2 separate and independent agreements, as well as the express language of paragraph 15, which is the so-called immunity provision. That's the government. Throughout the settlement process, Hunter and his lawyers negotiated fairly and in good faith with the prosecutors. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like you even had to do much negotiating at all. They just came and said, hey, we want to grant you total immunity and dismiss everything. Third, Hunter's defense says, consistent, Judge, with their terms, the government's terms. Hunter signed both agreements, was willing to waive certain rights, means he gave something up, and to accept responsibility for his past mistakes. As was required as part of the plea agreement, he was prepared to plead guilty to the 2 misdemeanor tax charges in open court. And he truthfully answered your questions, Judge, including those regarding his understanding of the promises made to him by the government in exchange for pleading guilty. Hunter's understanding of the scope of immunity that was agreed to by the government was and is based on the express written terms of the diversion agreement, okay, diversion, not plea. Hunter's understanding of the scope of immunity agreed to by the government is also corroborated by the government's contemporaneous written and oral communications during plea negotiations. In other words, Hunter understood it this way. Diversion, government understood it this way, and I've got documents to prove it. He says, and fourth, Hunter intends to abide by the terms of the diversion agreement. That was executed. That was executed at the July 26 hearing by the defendant. Hunter's already entered it. It's already done. He signed it, his counsel signed it, and the United States executed the agreement. And so defense says we concur, since we have an executed agreement, and we concur with the statements that the government made during the hearing. At the hearing, the government stated in open court. They said, yeah, Judge, it is a bilateral agreement between the parties, and it does stand alone from the plea deal. It's a separate contract, that it was in effect and that it was binding. And they're pointing to the transcripts. The government said, Your Honor, I believe that this is a bilateral agreement between the parties and that the parties view in their best interest. He says, government, Your Honor, the diversion agreement is a contract between the parties, so it's in effect until it's either breached or a determination period. Your Honor, the position of the United States is that agreements stand alone by their own terms. And the government says the statement by counsel is obviously, as Your Honor, the judge acknowledged, a modification that we believe is binding. Okay, so the corrupt DOJ, they were in the back rooms, as we suspected here, just saying, we're just going to do it anyways. Just tell Hunter to eat it. Go out there and just eat this plea deal because we are not going to prosecute you. We're just going to say this deal's binding and he's not going to have to worry about it. That's why when Hunter was out there the first time, the judge is like, would you take this if there's no immunity? He's like, no, of course not. No, I'm not going to take it. They walk him back into the closet and they say, you're going to take this deal, okay? We are not going to prosecute you. Your daddy is in charge. And we're just going to sign this document. And if there is Trump wins or some other GOP person takes over, the Department of Justice, they're not going to be able to prosecute you either because we're the DOJ going to execute this diversion agreement, private contract between us and Hunty, and you can bring that back up as immunity in the future. And Hunter walked right back out there. The judge asked him the same question. Would you take this deal even if it doesn't grant you immunity? He's like, yes, I will. I'll take it. Why? Because he knew the unspoken terms were he's not going to be prosecuted. So when the judge asked them to explain themselves, as we said, the kids got caught with their hands in the cookie jar big time, both the government and the DOJ and the defense team. And the government is supposed to be prosecuting, not defending, not offering insane plea deals without precedent. So they say this all in court. The government acknowledged this in their filings, agreeing to the public disclosure. And so Hunter's defense says, therefore, Your Honor, we've got the public disclosure of the plea. We've got the disclosure of diversion. And therefore, the parties have a valid and binding bilateral diversion agreement. It's already done. And the scope of the immunity was already agreed upon thanks to the diversion agreement, as we can see. And so there is just a lot of connections here, and you can just see it in as we clean this up a little bit. They say this was executed at the plea deal, in effect, by all the parties. The diversion agreement details the scope of the immunity, and it is a binding diversion agreement. So Hunter is now immune. Now, this is the big FU to tell the judge to F off. And I hate to even make you think of that word, but this is the proper translation for this sentence. Hunter and his lawyer wish to thank the court for its attention to this case. That's a big F off, all right? That I'm translating that from lawyer speak to English. Hunter and his lawyer wish to thank the court for its attention to this case. You're done here, Judge. Thanks. Nope, you're done. I don't even want to hear another response from you. I don't want to hear an order. You've done a terrible job. You've wrecked this case, but we're not playing with you anymore. We already have a binding agreement. It's already executed. As far as we're concerned, you're done. Don't call. Attorneys for defendant Robert Hunter Biden. And just so we're clear who these people are, Christopher Clark, Abe David Lowell, and many others. And why wouldn't they work with their daddy's DOJ to get this deal done? And so the judge, my friends, has issued an order on this. The judge is going to order the government to respond to this because something doesn't add up. They say that there wasn't a signed diversion agreement. So the judge posted this, says, it is hereby ordered that no later than noon on Tuesday, the government, you, DOJ, shall file a response. What do you say about this? Do you think that Hunter Biden is immune? Because you guys at the DOJ just appointed a special counsel. So what the heck do we need a special counsel for if Hunter Biden is immune? Because your prosecutor called Leo Weiss and David Weiss concocted this immunity deal. So it's a total scam. It's corruption through and through. We'll see what the DOJ says in response to this and what the judge does. But the White House has the reaction that you would expect. We're not going to be able to talk about this. This is very independent. I refer you over to everybody else except for me.
Can you discuss at all the president's personal reaction to, as a father, of the special counsel being appointed to continue the Hunter Biden probe?
So let me just first say, and you've heard me say this before, that this case was handled independently by the Justice Department under leadership.
That's not what whistleblower Gary Shapley says, or Joseph Ziegler says, or special agent FBI agent whose name is redacted says. They all say it was highly political.
Of a Trump appointed U.S. attorney, as you all know.
Also doesn't matter because Trump appointed attorney had to go to Biden appointed D.C. attorney or Biden appointed California attorney.
This is consistent with what the president has been saying for a long while now, going way back to his campaign days, that he would restore the Department of Justice independence from political interference from the White House. And this is want to make sure that we continue that. Since the White House hasn't been involved, just to be clear again, certainly I would refer you to any questions about this specifically to Department of Justice and certainly to Hunter Biden's personal representatives. I will say this, and you've heard this from the president, is that he loves his son. And he is proud of him overcoming his addiction and how he's continuing to build his life. But I don't have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, loves his son, loves that money, loves that probably painting money too. I don't know where that money's going. But not much to say. Of course, another comment about David Weiss in particular. You know, your administration has already said David Weiss was this great guy who could do this independent investigation. You said he had all the authority to bring charges wherever he wanted. He was not a special independent counsel. He was a special counsel. You said he was independent, even though we know that he wasn't. He still reported to the DOJ. And what about David Weiss now, who already botched the first investigation, being appointed and given more powers that you said he already had? Can you please answer this, please?
Now that this investigation is in the hands of a special counsel, which does have some more sweeping authority, just to be clear, can you say with certainty that David Weiss isn't going to unearth any connections between the president and his son's business dealings.
I'm going to continue saying what I have said before. The president was not in business with his son. That still stands.
That changed, though. It used to be he did not talk to his son about business. Now he's not in business.
And just don't have anything else to add. I've been very clear about that. The president's been very clear about that. Anything else specific to this case, I would have to refer you to the Department of Justice.
So we're going to hear that a lot. It's going to be like a broken record. Now, we do have some reaction from James Comer over on the Oversight Committee. He says, I never wanted a special counsel at all. This is done to stop and stall our investigations, which would have been actually legitimate because it would have been adversarial. Now we've got David Weiss, who already failed the first time, already botched the first 5 years, going to get more power.
Well, this is a joke. All that Merrick Garland did was validate the point that many Republicans have been making, that the Department of Justice was weaponized. Look, I've been very vocal in saying we didn't need a special counsel. I've been on the other side of a lot of my colleagues in the House. The one reason I would give for not wanting a special counsel was what we've seen. The fact that I have no confidence that Merrick Garland would appoint anyone credible. I never dreamed he would do as bad as he did with Weiss. Not only did Weiss drag his feet for 5 years and try to negotiate a sweetheart plea deal with the president's son, he also let the statute of limitations run out. That was one of the biggest complaints from the IRS whistleblowers when they testified before the Oversight Committee, was their frustration that they knew they were coming up on a hard stop as far as trying to prosecute the president's son for obvious crimes of tax evasion and violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But Weiss intentionally let the statute of limitations run out. We also learned in that testimony, Trey, that the IRS whistleblowers never knew about the 1023 form from the FBI that Bill Barr handed over to Weiss that alleged both Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were involved in a bribery scheme in Ukraine, even though Weiss knew the IRS was investigating suspicious wires from Ukraine. So we have no confidence in Weiss. We have no confidence in Merrick Garland. This will not deter our investigation. We're going to continue to move forward and try to present the American people with the truth about this family.
All right, so that's Comer reacting. They know that this whole thing is a cover-up, and we're going to see if the judge does anything about this. I tend to think that she's going to. I'm not sure that she's going to be very happy with that reaction. Judge Norika being told to F off by the defense. We're going to see how that lands as we continue to cover. Of course we will. Thank you for subscribing, my friends, and liking this wherever it is you're watching this. There's a lot more to go. And we've got one final segment before we wrap it up on this lovely, lovely day. And this one's interesting. Are Democrats turning on Hunter Biden? Has he become so toxic that they are now trying to distance themselves, create a little moat around Joe Biden so that Hunter can't bring his crack cocaine across? Well, we see a pattern of some changes, which is always a little unusual. Jake Tapper, Washington Post, and Jamie Raskin all now shifting their language in slightly different ways. Jake Tapper, for example, says, now that David Weiss, who's already been botching the 5-year investigation of Hunter, now that he's been appointed as the special counsel, so he can botch it for another 5 years and scoot this thing past the election, Jake is wondering, those Republicans might have a point.
One of the reasons to make him a special counsel, supposedly, is so that he has the ability to charge in other venues outside Delaware. But I believe he had previously argued publicly that he had the right to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, they told us that like 20
And then the
times.
whistleblowers
Pretty
said,
sure you told
well,
us that, Jake.
behind the scenes, Weiss was complaining he couldn't do that. He wasn't able to do that. And the Justice Department and Weiss denied what the whistleblowers were saying. But this move makes it seem as though, well, maybe the whistleblowers were right.
Yeah.
Maybe what they were alleging is true, and he didn't have the ability to charge wherever he wanted to charge, and now he does. So I do have a lot of questions about that, and I do think some of the political questions being raised by Republicans have merit.
They do have merit. Bingo. They got it. So he finally had a moment of clarity. Probably it lasted those 45 seconds. Don't expect much more of that. But that was from Jake Tapper. Washington Post had another story on this too. They said the same thing from their opinion columnists, so-called. They said Hunter shouldn't get special treatment. They say that Garland announced on Friday, this is the Washington Post speaking, that David Weiss of Delaware is going to be appointed as special counsel. They say this was the right move. Okay. Should encourage Americans that the process will be independent and transparent, and it's more likely to be fair. Such assurances might not have been necessary at the beginning, but they became more important after the plea agreement fell apart under judicial scrutiny once it was rigged. Initially appearing reasonable to these people, the deal turned out to include peculiar details suggesting critics might have been justified to suspect that Mr. Biden was being given special treatment. The plea deal would have been required the presiding judge to comply or to act as like a judge over breaches of the deal. There were differing views about whether he could face charges under the deal and the diversion agreement. Hunter thought one thing and the prosecutors evidently thought another. I don't believe that. I think they knew what the deal was, but the judge just made them say it, and they couldn't say it out in the open. And so when they made the prosecutor say that it wasn't as broad as Hunter thought it was, it caused a chasm. They just didn't have the story straight behind the scenes. They should have told Hunter, he's going to say all this stuff, just ignore it. Meanwhile, 2 IRS whistleblowers claimed they were not allowed to pursue these investigations. They say here at the Washington Post that Garland's move was justified. He's going to be authorized to produce a report and all the things. And they say now he has all the independence and resources he needs. So, okay, actually, that was actually a worse article than I even suspected it was going to be. So it's now just puffing up Mr. Weiss, who's already given Hunter a scam deal, and they're going to say that reappointing the guy who gave him a scam deal is going to ensure justice. So that's how delusional they are over there at the Washington Post, just so we can all be familiar with that. Now, it's not just the Washington Post, so I would say that they're saying it's no special treatment for Hunter, but they know that the appointment of Weiss is going to be a continuity of the special treatment for Hunter, but it's just interesting they're saying it openly. Nope, this is good. He does deserve scrutiny. It's because they know it's not going to get any scrutiny. Now, finally, we've got Representative Raskin, who had a couple interesting comments to say about this and using some language like unlawful. Here's Raskin.
Joining us now is Congressman Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. What do you make of this appointment of the special counsel in the Hunter Biden case?
Of course, it's what my Republican colleagues have been demanding and asking for months. And
years, actually. It would have been nice to have it years ago when Joe Biden took over.
Now they seem to disapprove of it for some reason.
Well, again, because it's just appointed now after you've already tried to scam through a plea deal, and you appointed the same guy who screwed up the first investigation to now be the special counsel. So that's the reason there, Raskin.
But to me, it seems to formalize what has basically been the understanding from the beginning, which is that David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, who'd been nominated by Donald Trump, can make the decisions about what to charge, where to charge, and when to charge.
He could never do that. If he could do that, then why does he need special counsel status?
And with the collapse of the plea agreement that he had apparently worked out with
that was a scam.
Hunter Biden, now he wants to be certain that he's got the authority to go bring charges wherever he wants. So from my perspective, it is the rule of law and the justice system working itself out the way that it does. And, you know, obviously it's bumpy and this side or that side
it's bumpy when
doesn't necessarily prefer this course of events. But our job, I think, as political people is to allow the justice system to run its course.
No, because you have commandeered the justice system. You have fake deals that are rigged in favor of the president's son. So this is where Raskin says, yeah, you know, Hunter may have done some unlawful things. And this is new language. They're not usually admitting this.
So I want to ask you more about some of the stuff that the Republicans have been highlighting regarding Hunter Biden. You know, we saw Joe Biden at one point say that Hunter Biden had no dealings, got no money from China. We now see from Hunter's own words
got a lot of money.
That's not true. Does any of this raise concerns for you? You know, the money from Ukraine, the money from China, the money from Russia. Does any of this
drugs, hookers, crack, all of that as part of that operation? Any of that stuff matter?
Well, look, whether or not it's criminal, whether or not it warrants special counsel status, are you concerned about this stuff?
Here's what I'm concerned about. During the Trump administration, we saw the development of...
What are you talking about? What?
A completely new public philosophy, which is that government is not an instrument of the common good and the public interest. Government is an instrument for private self-enrichment for the guy who gets in.
Hey, weirdo, Raskin, a lot of this conduct with Hunter and Joe was when Joe was the vice president. Trump wasn't even thinking about running for office yet. So what happened then?
For his family, for his private businesses. And that's a model that we're seeing all over the world.
But you don't approve of that model, obviously.
I do not.
You denounced that model.
That's what Putin is doing.
Donald Trump, yeah.
That's what Orban is doing. That's what Marcos is doing. That's what El Sisi is doing. That's what
it's been going on since the dawn of mankind.
Well, but it's new for America that somebody would get in and basically just say, everything is corrupt and I'm just as corrupt as the next guy and I'm going to take money as Trump did from China, from Saudi Arabia, from the United Arab Emirates. I mean, look, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, pocketed a cool $2 billion
from Saudi Arabia.
And in a corporation
he created the Saudi portfolio in the White House. But what about Hunter?
So I am concerned about it, and I'm concerned not just about public officials like Donald Trump and Jared Kushner who do it, but even family members who water ski along for the ride. And I have been, begging my colleague, Chairman Comer, for us to do a serious analysis of what the laws should be about money making.
And you would take part in a serious investigation.
Yes, of course we would. And we're going to release a report about all of the foreign government emoluments, millions of dollars we can document that Donald Trump pocketed at the hotels, at the golf courses through business deals when he was president and that his family got. But they've not laid a glove on Joe Biden. As president, they haven't been able to show.
He's like, hey, first of all, what these Republicans are doing is so partisan and corrupt, and Trump weaponized this whole thing. So if they want to get down to a serious conversation about this, we're happy to do that. And as part of the serious conversation, I can't wait to talk about how evil and corrupt Donald Trump is. And I'll be better than the Republicans, who are just sitting there talking about how evil and bad the Democrats are. Give me a break, this guy.
Any criminal corruption on his part. What they've got is Hunter Biden, and we all seem clear that this guy was addicted to drugs and did a lot of really unlawful and wrong things. And we have said...
And I get so irritated about this. There are many addicts out there who are good people. They just suffer from an addiction. But they're not out there beating hookers and trading on the American name, threatening Chinese businessmen because daddy's sitting right next to you. They're not doing that type of stuff, engaging in criminality.
Let the justice system run its course. They're not saying that about Donald Trump. Anytime Donald Trump actually gets indicted after a grand jury has already determined that there's probably cause to
prosecutors.
They attack the prosecutors. They attack the judges. They attack the system. For them, Donald Trump could never be guilty of anything.
Well, not by your corrupt DOJ. Everything you guys make up is just made up. It's the boy who's cried wolf. You guys have cried wolf too many times. Certainly, I do not want a criminal leader. Nobody wants a criminal leader. But they make that up. They just say, well, we don't like this guy, therefore he's a criminal. And we control these prosecutors' offices in different jurisdictions. And so we're going to use those to our advantage to gain leverage over the political conversation when our candidate is terrible and cannot even run or speak or think. So they're constantly playing the game, moving things around. I'm not sure they're actually turning on Hunter. Feels like they're moding this thing up, acknowledging what they have to acknowledge while trying to protect Biden. We'll see where it goes, my friends. There will be a lot more on this. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for the day. We covered some good ground. Democrats turning on Hunty. We've got Hunter's lawyers already claiming the immunity deal is done, which came quick. I was like expecting this to come, I don't know, some other way. They're like, it's already done. And they told the judge to get bent. So we'll see what she thinks about that. Trump also slammed Judge Chutkan because when the institutions are corrupt, you got to call them out as being corrupt. Otherwise, they'll take advantage of you and pretend to be legitimate. And Big Fani, the biggest Fani in all of Georgia, let a big one slip. And it wasn't ready yet. And it's not good. It's messy there in Georgia. And we'll see if the indictment drops tomorrow. I'm going to guess that it does. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And so let's take a look and see what you have to say. I very much appreciate those very generous super chats and those amazing donos that came in. And so thanks to everybody who sent those in. Let's say hello to those. Our friends on YouTube, on Rumble, on Locals. Before we wrap up, my friends, one final plug for the website, brand new website. We've got all of our video reports are now here, robertgovea.com. Go on over here, read the latest. If you don't want to watch a full video, you can catch a summary, read through exactly what's going on in the news. We also have fancy dark mode here for our dark mode friends. And we appreciate you checking it out. robertgovea.com. Sign up for our daily newsletter. Click here to get instant access to the mind map. And everything we just talked about is all linked right here. So if you sign up on robertgovea.com, you can literally navigate this mind map. And if it looks overwhelming, I made a tutorial so that you can watch it and see exactly how to use the mind map activity. And so, all right, my friends, let's see who is in the house on this lovely August. We've got John McGarvey's in the house. Says, thank you, John, sharing the following. Oh, wait, that's from Chubby Stubby. That's interesting. John McGarvey's clipping. Chubby Stubby's in the house. Over on Locals. Welcome, Chubby. That's a new name. Welcome aboard. Says, I have a theory that Vivek and Trump are in cahoots. Vivek is there to freely say what Trump can't do to gag orders as vocal support and to light a fire under other repubs. I'll be surprised if he isn't the VP pick. I think that would be great. I'm a big fan of what we're seeing out of Vivek. He is very aggressive. Now, I mean, honestly, a lot of it sounds a little too good to be true. You know, he just keeps saying all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, that's incredible. Defund the FBI, get rid of the DOJ, eliminate this, eliminate that. Wow. So I would be all on board with that. I think that would be a great pick and a good strategy. John Allen's in the house, says, hi, Rob. Another great stream. I just want to shout out to our friends over there in the mod group, working hard and covering for each other so that nothing gets missed. We have an awesome group of people we have. Thank you, KB, McGarvey, Donut, Zach, and all the mods taking care of chats. From John Allen, who's also a great mod. We have the best mods on the whole internet. We love our mods. Thank you to the mods, and thank you, John Allen, for shouting out the mods. In the house. Thanks, John. We got the good NY. Says, details, details, details. Robert, you lawyers are so obsessed with process. In Georgia, they aspire for greatness. In Georgia, they are committed to get results for the citizens quickly and efficiently. Criminals are indicted ahead of the court and jury meeting, and elections are decided well ahead of Election Day. If only we listened to Stacey Abrams, there wouldn't have been all this election confusion. Yeah, that's right. You're right about that, NY. Yeah, Trump has already lost 2024, too. They've already decided that for us. Yeah, I forgot. They're smarter than us, and we all have to listen to them. Rocky Water says, 95 on Locals. That's a new high for me. Cheers to everybody. Cheers to all of our Locals friends. Yeah, our Locals is growing, man. We're growing. It's a lot of fun. We got some amazing new friends on Locals. And Rocky, thanks for the shout out. Shout out to all 90. We're at 96 right now. Shout out to our friends on Locals. We crossed 100. Woo! It's growing, baby. We're doing some fun stuff. We do members only morning streams, and we're building out a merch store, and Vienticus is 3D printing thing. It's great. We have the best community ever. So thanks for that. Hey, we got Zulu bringing in 10 new membos. And so our members, we do on Locals or on YouTube, we do morning streams in the morning, talk through some fun stuff. Sometimes we record separate segments as well. We had this one from, who's coming in? Zulu. Thanks, Zulu, for bringing in 10 new people. We got Mr. Nels coming in, Samantha R, Aubin M, we got William L, Benjamin L, Maddie Adams coming in. We got Frezio's here. We got Tom C, Majestic Seeker, and Iron Abbott, all coming in the house, courtesy of our friend Zulu with an X in the house. Really embracing the X, which I dig it, Julie. All right, we got, and John McGarvey. Thanks, John. Woo! Tomorrow, we're going to have some serious members only. And hey, YouTube members, if you want to join us for our members only after party, which is where we go over to locals and we hang out for, 20, 30 minutes or whatever's left on the clock, is join us on Telegram. So when you're a member on YouTube, go to the community tab on our channel page, get the Telegram link, and we'll see you there for the after party. We had some very nice ones coming in from Trevelyan. Says, blame President Trump for sugar missing. From Shergar missing. Well, Trump gets blamed for everything. I think that's just the standard set of affairs. Voice of the People says, I feel like this leak happened to cause a media stir up to cover up the Biden immunity. Oh, that's an interesting take, Voice. Yeah, so the Biden immunity scandals getting covered up by the Georgia grand jury leak. Interesting. There is always something convenient like that. It feels like it's just one after another. Something bad for the Bidens, something bad for Trump. Bad for Biden's, bad for Trump, and around we go. We got Devin says, can they even indict him in Georgia? I thought federal cases supersede state cases. Yeah, well, they can and they will. So, yeah, I mean, traditionally, federal cases do supersede state cases. So, like what we talked about here before, Devin, is the federal cases versus the the New York cases. And I think Alvin Bragg has already intimated that one of them, like, cases have to go first, right? You've got 4 cases. There's going to be a trial that goes first, and they have to coordinate. So traditionally what happens is the states will defer to the feds because the feds have the more serious charges. So if the feds get you, it's like, do the states need to also get you? And I would think that, yeah, so in Georgia, they're going to do it, and they're separate, similar charges, but yeah, it's totally legitimate, and they're going to do it. A Bad Poet says, if Georgia's going that hard, voting fraud is at 100% on the level. From A Bad Poet. Good to see you. John says, a baker's dozen, I think, for 13 months, John. Whoo, man. That's over a year. A baker's dozen indeed. We got 13 good months, my friend. Thanks, John. John, you're a great member of our community, and I appreciate you. Lots of fun, lots of laughs, lots of great comments. 13 months. Here's to another 13, my man. Thanks for being here. We got Vanessa Stuller coming in with this very handsome young cat feline friend of ours. Vanessa in the house. Welcome, Vanessa. And Robert Sutera also became a supporter. So amazing. So you can join on YouTube. And again, Robert and Vanessa, grab the Telegram link so we see you at the after party. We got Jameson's here, says fraudulent contracts are not enforceable. Yeah, and I was thinking about that. Did the government assent to this contract? Like, was there an exchange? I know they said that there was, I'm not a contract lawyer, but what do they say? You have to have offer, acceptance, consideration. Consideration is the word. Was there consideration in this deal? Man, I almost lost the consideration word. I would have been embarrassed myself if I didn't get that. But consideration. Was there any consideration in exchange for this deal? Or does Hunter just get immunity because he signed the documents? I don't know. But again, who cares? Like, if the DOJ is going to be the entity that enforces it and they don't want to enforce it, it almost doesn't matter what the law is. Doesn't matter what the agreement is. Doesn't matter what the judge says. If the DOJ is not going to prosecute, the judge can't make them prosecute. You can't make them bake the cake. If the DOJ doesn't want to prosecute him and they're going to honor this deal, that's the game. Good to see you, Jameson. We had another one from Logan. Yes, says Judge Chutkan worked at the law firm for Burisma. Yep, we got that story from Zero Hedge, but thanks for flagging it, Logan. Very interesting connections there. We got Joshua P30s in the house. Welcome aboard, Joshua. Also a new supporter on YouTube. Amazing. So we'll see you in the morning and hopefully see you for the after party. And we got GSG McLovin in the house. Good to have you, McLovin. Welcome to supporter. But it says here, you've already got this, you've already been a member, so I'm confused now, which is why I'm a little bit confused. Anyways, we're happy to have you, GSG. McLovin is in the house. Passport Bro says, hey, Rob, Can we have someone check to see if it is legal for the U.S. government to give away the people's money? Sounds illegal. Well, when it comes to money, I think the government can just do whatever they want. They can take it from us. They can give it to Ukraine. So I don't know. If it's illegal, they've given away like trillions of it. So somebody should look into that. Hopefully somebody does. Thanks, Passport Bro. Appreciate you. We got Shy is here. Not that Shy. Says if SCOTUS has jurisdiction over any case involving the public interest and the U.S. government, why haven't they exercised that in Trump cases? Well, it's hard. It's very rare that the Supreme Court will just take anything. You've got to appeal up to it. So they don't ever hardly invoke, you can go there with original jurisdiction, but they don't almost ever just like reach in and take it. It's the natural process. You either file an appeal, a petition for a writ of certiorari so that they'll accept it, or you go up through the Court of Appeals. In the Trump case, one way you might expect that to happen would be like an interlocutory appeal. Take that up to the higher level court and then see if they grant something. But the Supreme Court is generally not just acting on its own. Maybe they will. I mean, if things get as bad, as bad as they might be, maybe they would. But in general, they just don't do it. Michael Manson, 5 months, baby. We're over halfway to a baby. So says, thank you, Rob, for keeping us informed. Thank you, Michael, for being a member for 5 months. And look at those two good boys back there, those two handsome pups. We got this one from Rocky Water. Says, tip for the info that Judge Chutkan used to work at a law firm repping GPS. Watching the Watchers is priceless. Thank you, Rocky. Well, somebody actually brought that up on our morning stream this morning as well. So it's a lovely informational pipeline we have built out. We all share info. Catherine Rex says our country is a dumpster fire. Our enemies are eating popcorn, watching the news, and laughing at us. I'm over this nonsense. I hope the penny drops soon. Hang in there, Catherine. I know how frustrating it is. I know it's disgusting. And this Hunter Biden immunity stuff, it makes you disgusted. But this is necessary. This is the reveal. This is the awakening. We got to see it. If you're going to go clean out an old closet or something, you got to open the door and see what's inside before we can start cleaning it out. So here we are. But I agree. It is a dumpster fire. It's not good. Dennis says, is it possible that this judge could throw the special counsel in jail for malfeasance? The judge always could. A judge could always hold somebody in contempt or something, but I don't think that's a possibility here. Could he roll over on whoever put him in this predicament? You mean like David Weiss in particular? Yeah, the judge could order David Weiss to come in here. I need, you got Leo Weiss here from the DOJ. I want the boss. David, come in here and explain yourself. The judge could refuse to do stuff. Like a judge could refuse to dismiss the case. They filed a motion to dismiss so that they could transfer venue. She could say, no, I'm not dismissing it. I think what you're doing here is trying to put a fraud on the court. So I'm not doing it. And she could exercise, her judicial authority. I hope she does. We'll see if she does. The good doctor NY says, this is confusing to me. Doesn't Merrick Garland understand that if Hunter has immunity, now it means instant impeachment for Garland? I don't know. Do you think the Republicans would do that? Or this whole thing could just get bogged down in court. But you're right. Garland is walking a fine line here. Third proverb says, Mr. BFD said, SOB, they fired the prosecutor. You lying dog-faced pony soldier. Quid pro Joe from Third Proverb. Yeah, that's a Biden. They fired the prosecutor, and Biden said, you lying dog-faced pony soldier. I remember that one. Third Proverb. Thank you, Third. Dennis says, you can't blame the defense for colluding to get their client off. The government is guilty of sin. Totally. If you're a defense attorney, you're like doing cartwheels. Can you believe we got this through with the president's son? The whole country was watching. We got him immunity. Yeah, man, he's like the best defense attorney ever. Incredible work. I mean, if every defense attorney had their client's dad run the Department of Justice, I'm sure you could get amazing deals, like incredible deals. probably like the best ever because you run the government, Amazing. So congratulations to them for getting a great deal done for their client. Stephen Mosher's in the house. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, that's 2 from you. I saw you this morning too. Thank you for that. We had this one, 28 CFR 600.3B. Is Weiss qualified? Now, they cited him under a different provision, so they actually referenced a different provision on that one. I think it's 0.4B. That's from Andy. Andy, been a member for 6 months. Amazing. Now, Andy, I have not done a deep dive on this analysis, but since you brought it up, let's just pull this open. This is the actual special counsel order, which I don't think we did not go through here today. I kind of intended. Section 16.4 to 16.10 are applicable, and he's been appointed under 600.4A, which I think is a different subsection. So I'm going to have to look into that. I have not taken a close look. I intended to today. But that came over from Andy. Thank you, Andy, for sending that and for being a member for 6 beautiful, beautiful months. We've got another one from NY says, if Hunter truly has immunity, it's equal to a pardon from daddy. This is the third rail event. It means Biden could be impeached with Garland. I would agree with that. I think that this is a major, major deal if they enforce this. Red-blooded dad, I think, is sending over the peaches. This is a pear laughing his butt off. And thank you for that, red-blooded. It was a funny ordeal at some points today. We got Gray Owl. AZ says, keep up the good work. The Biden House of Cards will expose the bad actors on both sides of the aisle. Thanks, Gray Owl. In AZ. I agree. These efforts, they've become too big. Like they're going to collapse in on the weight of themselves. Their egos and their belief that they are without fault. It's all going to come collapsing down. Greg Cutler says, love you, Rob. You're the best show on YouTube. I really appreciate the work you do. Keep it up, buddy. Let's go, Brandon. Thank you, Greg. What a nice comment, Greg. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you being here, my friend. We couldn't do it without you. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for saying hello. And thanks for supporting our work. Amazing. We had another one from Dolphin Fan is the man. Brought in 5 new membos. Thank you to Dolphin Fan. And we've got this one coming in. We got Liz B. Vote Justin out. We got P-Dub is in the house. Kyle Lloyd and Stephanie, all gifted membos courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man. We got Crash 2 Contrary says, Rob, a bit of clarity, please. The plea deal and the diversion were intertwined, not implemented. But the terms of the diversion required no drugs, etc., correct? If so, I'd require Hunter to pee in a cup twice a day. Yes, so you're right about that. I don't know. The diversion deal was a little squirrely because the diversion deal also, I believe, implicated the judge. They said if there was a diversion problem and we thought about refiling charges against Hunter, the judge would act as like this mediator. And so if the judge is not going to act as the mediator, there's an impossibility, it sounds like, in the diversion agreement. So how could that be effective? It's almost like it's impossible for that thing to be effective, and therefore it is ineffective. But yeah, if you're Hunter and his people, he's peeing in a cup twice a day. No, I've been going to diversion. I've been checking in with my officer and everybody. So yeah, you can't file charges against me because I've already done something. We got Trust 2 Kids over on the Rumbles. Shout out to our friends on Rumble. Trust 2 Kids says, thanks for a great stream, Rob. So much corruption, enough to fill both the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. I know, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's like teeming out of their pores. That's how corrupt they are. K-Bean, thanks K-Bean over on YouTube says, back at you, John Allen. That's some nice mod love going on there. We love our mods. We got the best mods. K-Bean, John Allen, thank you for modding down the fort for us. We got another one from C. John bringing in 5 new membos. We got Mike M., Richard G., Chaplain S., and Richard Tatership, along with Eagle 80, coming in courtesy of our friend C. John. Thank you, C. John. And hey, our new members, we got a lot of new members. So our members only stream tomorrow is going to be a ton of fun. And join us on Telegram after this show is over. Shy became a supporter. Welcome aboard, Shy. We'll see you in the morning. We got another one from Nobody. Says, where the people's voice is not heard, there will be revolution. From the world teacher, aka the Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Imam, etc. Reference Benjamin Cream, biggest cover-up forever for now. From Nobody in the house. Nobody in the house. Well, we're hoping for a nice, peaceful revolution and a constitutional restoration is what we're looking for. And I think by waking up more people, we're going to get there. We got this one from our meme smith, Geegum Geegum, in the house. Make sure you're smashing that like button wherever it is you're watching this, baby. Woo! Yeah! Look how cool I look. Man, I wish I could do that. Man, that's pretty cool. Man, I can't even hardly jump at all. Look at that jump. My vertical's not nearly that good at all. All right. But I'll keep working on it. All right. Smash that like button, my friends. I gotta do more. I gotta do more leg days and more calisthenics, We got, thank you for that one, Gigam, our meme smith extraordinaire. We got Jameson says the judge can toss out the deal, and if it's legit or not legit, sanction the attorneys. Mark Elias was sanctioned by the Fifth Circuit. Tell the judge to get bent. Good way to get sanctioned. Do you agree with my assessment on that? Jameson's also a lawyer. Jameson, do you agree with my assessment that final sentence was them telling the judge to F off? I think that was a literal translation. Put it into the Google Translate. We got SD 1985. Says, can Trump run while in prison? Yeah, he could win. He could run and win and just pardon himself and walk right out and fire the whole Department of Justice. I can't even imagine that. Somebody's got to have to, I'll need I'll have to stay extra calm if that happens. We got Woods Precision Arms in the house. Says the current DOJ makes that show, The House of Cards, look like the Andy Griffith show. Yeah, there was a lot of corruption in that show. And that was like, PG version of what's happening right now. Yeah, I don't think back then, there was a lot of filth and debauchery there, but it didn't look anything like Hunter's laptop. Nothing. That's like, X-rated stuff. We got Argue This says, this is going to sound crazy, but Hunter is a miserable soul. That doesn't sound that crazy. He can turn into the man who saved America. Think about it. Well, I'm all in favor of people recovering and restoring themselves. I think that it's a beautiful thing when you can come back from the depths. And I think that with prayer and some help, you can turn your life around. No doubt about that. And I'd like Hunter to do that, but I don't think they're doing that at all. In fact, I think Hunter is doubling down. He's not selling access to daddy anymore. He's selling artwork now, which is access to daddy. So it's the same story. And they continue to turn around and say, like, his past is not, he's not apologetic for his past, is what the way I've been hearing it. He's more excusatory. He justifies it. Well, I was a crackhead. Okay. You still got to make amends for that stuff, bro. Like, that's how this works. All right. Chris Wolney says, could Hunter's deal set precedent for more folks to get incredible plea deals? Yeah, definitely. Like, especially if your daddy is the president, like, you'll get the best deal ever. Because then the next time when the judge says, is there any precedence for this? Then the next child who's getting a smoking deal because daddy president, he can say, yeah, they did it with Hunter. And the judge will say, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that corruption. Good idea, Chris. Wait, what? Alina Abba's getting married? What? Are you sure? I'm not sure how to react right now. This is a big moment for me of pain. Red One says, we keep losing, Rob. We lose Alina. We lose elections. We lose the border. We lose everything. I thought she was already married. I hope they're happy. Salty says, judges and justices is a republic last defense. And today, too many are corrupted. Too many are corrupted. Corrupted partisan hacks. We have a lot of that. Everybody's just ransacking the treasury for their own gains. We got another one from Rumble. Shout out to our Rumble friends from CFROBW. Says, remember Biden had ran with legislation that if you have cocaine the size of the quarter, you go to jail. Yeah, mandatory sentencing and like 3 strikes rules, all from him in the 80s and 90s crime bills. The cocaine location in the White House changed 4 or 5 times. It's snowing in the White House. Yeah, if you had crack, you went to prison immediately. 5 years, mandatory minimums, do not pass go. Hunter brings it to the White House, no questions. Jameson says, People's Pundit show effect of Trump not on the ballot. Look at that show. He is a better clip than fake news. We love People's Pundit here. He does good work. He testified here in Arizona. Shout out to People's Pundit out there on YouTube and on Twitter. He does great work. Steele Stargazer says, just wanted to give you another shout out. Arms are fantastic. Oh, thanks, Steele. Thanks. Yeah, I like a good bicep day. It's always a good bicep day. It's one of my favorite days. Yes, only biceps for 3 hours. That's why it's called Bicep Day. Shai says, Weiss and Beau Biden worked in the AG's office in 2007. Wow, are you serious? That I did not know. That's amazing. I want to look into that one. David Weiss and Beau Biden were both in the AG's office. Yeah, because Beau Biden ran for the Attorney General of Delaware and won that. So I was always wondering, why did they like David Weiss so much? Maybe it's that. Maybe that's the connection. Hilarious. Too funny. All right. And then Salty says, Thor Mullet Fund. Yeah, I can be down on that. I could get the Thor mullet going. And then I can get a fan on the show, and then they can sort of like waft in the breeze. Yeah, should be fun. Thanks, Salty. And then we had Steel Stargazer. We got this one says, oh yeah, and thank you for all you do. We are listening. You are appreciated. Thank you, Steele. I appreciate you, my friend. And thanks for being so generous today with the super chats and for always being here. Oh, Rachel. Shattering hopes and dreams. Alina's already married with 3 kids. Good for her. I hope she's happy. I really do. I mean, she's such a babe, so hopefully she's happily married with 3 probably gorgeous kids. All right. Thanks for rubbing it in, Rachel. We got Angie says, hello, my friends. Robin chat. Hello, Angie Warren. And hello, my friends. I'm glad that you joined us in the house. Angie Warren. As a member for 3 months, Angie, thanks for saying hello and for supporting us. John says, Gigum on the Meme Smith says, can't take full credit. It was See the Veil's idea. Credit where credit is due. Well, you made is a good team. Thank you to See the Veil and thank you to Gigum for creating our incredible like button meme, baby. Whew. Yeah. And yeah, that's what we're talking about right there. That's the hammer of justice. That's the gavel of justice. It's right up there. The gavel of justice, baby. Amazing. Thank you to Gigum and See the Veil, all in the house. All right, we got Rachel sent one in, and John Allen. All right, we're gonna hit Twitter, X. Sorry, Elon, don't ban me. But let's see what's going on over there. And then there were a couple others that came in. I saw John Allen said hello, and Rachel said hello. All right, who's over on Twitter? Not many people, 4 of us. Shout out to the 4 Twitter viewers out there. Thanks for being here. Danny says, you need to leave Hunter alone. Just think what you would be like if Joe was your dad. Gosh, I know, probably a mess. Fred says, am I wrong? The special counsel statute says he must be appointed from outside the government. How can Weiss be appointed? I'm going to look into that a little bit further in detail, but it is a good question because he pointed to a different subsection, and I want to just read that subsection again. Now, either way, like it's the same guy, so you'd think you'd want to appoint somebody to come in and do an independent investigation. That obviously has not happened. So either way, I think it's corrupt. 5th grade Hunter said, you can't make me. Vice Principal Norika says, yeah, but you broke the school rules. Hunter says, you aren't my dad. Vice Principal Norika says, well, then I'm calling your dad. to tell him to bring you to my office Tuesday, August 15th by noon to see if he's going to spank you or I will. Good one from TJ King. Maybe that's how it went. Chicago says it's not loading for me. I'm watching on YouTube, but here it just shows a black screen. Oh yeah. Elon may have overheated the servers today. I had some video problems on the tubes. I remember that as well. So maybe that's the problem. All right, so that's what we'll say hello to our friends over on Twitter. We are going to go over to locals for our members only after party. And I saw a couple locals tips come in. So let's say hello to those before we wrap it up. We've got John Allen says, Rob, don't be down. Said, Alina is not worthy of you, said in a Wayne's World way. And we got your back, bro. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Alina, yeah. A love that never was meant to be. Rachel says, sorry, we like to keep it real in here. It's all for your own good. It's for character building. It's true. It's true. It should. You should have your heart shattered. It's good for your character. All right, my friends. And so thank you so much for those very generous donos. Very appreciative of all of those. And that's where we'll leave it. And so we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. YouTube friends, we would love it if you joined us. Click the community tab, grab the Telegram link, and join us over there because the stream will continue on. Don't forget to get your Field of Greens before you wrap up out of here. Fieldofgreens.com. 15% off with code Robert. Lots of healthy stuff. We want you to be healthy and well. Want to thank all the mods and the meme smiths. We got the best mods ever in the whole stinking interwebs and the universe. The Anticus Prime in the house. K-Bean. Thank you, K-Bean. We got Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu. We got Beyond Geo Stars, Zach Nichols, John Allen, our friend Janik909, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and John McGarvey. Our amazing meme smiths, Geegum, with an assist courtesy of See the Veil, Sleepy Dog Lee, and our friend Nathan N810. But that, my friends, is it for us on this lovely day. It's a beautiful Monday. It's going to be a busy week. There's no doubt about it. Tomorrow, we're fully expecting a big Fani indictment, and we'll plan on going through all of that. So we'll leave it there on this day, but when we come back here tomorrow, we hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. See you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.